السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. We continue inshallah ta'ala with our durus pertaining to the tafsir of the Quran. And as we mentioned that inshallah ta'ala we are trying to finish Juz Amma before the end of August, insha'Allah ta'ala. Today we will begin with Surah al-Mutaffifin. As we finish Surah al-Infitar, we will begin with Surah al-Mutaffifin and try to complete it along with al-Inshiqaq, insha'Allah ta'ala. Now a quick benefit, as we know the names of the surah, al-Mutaffifin, al-Infitar. When we say surah al-Mutaffifin, surah, if we translate it to mean chapter, al-Mutaffifin means what? What is the meaning of al-Mutaffifin? Those who take away from the scale, right? If they're selling rice, for example, right? They reduce a few grains, a few grams of rice from the scale, right? They take away something from the scale that they're giving the people. They shorten the due that they're supposed to be given. Now, if I was to say, like, let's say, what is the meaning of al-Mudarris? The teacher, right? Bait is house. Kitab is, now Kitab al-Mudarris means what? The book of the teacher. Bait al-Mudarris, the house of the teacher. Now Surah al-Mutaffifin, what it means? The surah of the Mutaffifin. The Mutaffifin, they own the surah. Right? Now remember surah we use, it translated as chapter, but there is not the exact precise 100% meaning, right? Now there's two, when we say surah al-Mutaffifin, right, it's not an attribution of ownership. Right? Definitely. It's not an attribution of ownership. Now there's two. You can say Surah al-Mutaffifin, or you can say Surah al-Mutaffifun. Right? Both of it is correct. When it comes to attributing something to its name, right? You can put that name in like how irregular, what you call mudaf ilay, right? With the kasra state, majrur, or you can put it in a dhamma state, marfu'. Right? And the reason I'm mentioning this, for those who may have a little linguistic language background, Arabic language background, Right? There are some who object to saying Surah al-Mutaffifin. They say no, say Surah al-Mutaffifun, because it's a name. Both of it is correct. Both of it is correct. No technicality. For example, if we say Masjid Ahlul Quran was Sunnah or Masjid Ahlul Quran was Sunnah, both of it is correct. Right? You're attributing the masjid to its name, not to its owner. If someone says, who is Ahlul Quran was Sunnah that own this masjid? Right? That is not what is intended. Right? The same thing. Surah al-Mu'minun or Surah al-Mu'minin. Both of it is correct. There is no issue. Now, Surah al-Mutaffifun is one of those surah that there is dispute as to whether it's Makkiyah or Madaniyah. Some say it's Makkiyah, some say it is Madaniyah, and there is strong evidence to say that it is Madaniyah, and it may have verses that were revealed before the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is nothing strange. As it has been narrated from Abdullah ibn Abbas, that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, he said, "Kanu min akhbathi nasi kayla." They were from the worst of people when it comes to weighing, right? Robbing the people when it comes to weighing. فأنزل الله سبحانه وتعالى ويل للمطففين فأحسنوا الكيل بعد ذلك. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed, woe be upon those who reduce the scales, those who rob the people in their weighing. فَأَحْسَنُوا الْكَيْلَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ. So they start to be good in their weighing after that. So there is a strong evidence that this surah was revealed after the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he went to al-Madinah. And that does not negate or contradict the fact that they may have verses in it that are Makkiyah, as we will see insha'Allah ta'ala. Verses that it's from its meaning, it's clear and more than likely that these verses were revealed in Makkah. So this narration, right, makes it obvious that it is Madaniyah. And then we will see those verses as we will come across the end of the surah where Allah described those, the disbelievers. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا كَانُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَضْحَكُونَ. Verily those, the criminals, the disbelievers, the wrongdoers, they used to laugh at the believers. And when they pass by them, they will make gestures of mockery. And when they go home, meaning these wrongdoers, these disbelievers, they go back to their family, they return to them, and they are rejoiceful and happy over that which they did to the believers. And all of this used to take place where? In Makkah. Right? In Medina, the Muslims, they were in control. So there were not any real apparent enmity towards the believers. Right? They were the hypocrites who were disclosing and hiding their enmity. Right? And their envy and hiding their problems with the Muslims. But in Makkah is where they were showing it apparently and showing it openly. So it's obvious and it's clear why there will be dispute as to, is it Makkiyah or is it Madaniyah? Right? And what seems to be the case is that there are both verses in it that are Makkiyah and Madaniyah. Similar to which surah we came across, Surah al-Hajj, where we mentioned the dispute, is it Makkiyah or Madaniyah? That has nothing to do with the authenticity of the surah or disputing if it is from Allah or anything like that. It's just where did it reveal? Where were the verses revealed? And the fact that the Muslims are concerned with this, right, is also show the preservation of the Quran, down to where it was revealed and the verses, all of those information, the Muslims, they are concerned with, right? And they study, and they have those information. Compared to the other books, they don't even have a trace back to their prophets and messenger. More so having a trace as to where did these verses reveal, or even if they ever reveal in the first place. So this surah, as we mentioned, is a surah that has verses that are Madani and also verses that are Makkiyah. And the beginning of the surah was revealed concerning something that took place in Medina, which is the tatfif of the people, or reducing their scale. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. Now, this word tafaf, right, tatfif, it indicates taking something that is very small in amount, right? Normally if somebody is weighing something and they want to rob the person that they are selling to, they're not going to take a large amount that is obvious. It's referring to taking a very small amount, right? Something that is going to be easy to hide. So that is the root of the word. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He curses those individuals. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. Destruction and punishment be upon those who are doing that. Those who are taking a little from the way of the people, from the scale of the people. Now if that is the case, of those who are taking a small amount it is almost undetectable, unless you go and weigh it back again. Right? And what about the case of those who are stealing large amount of the wealth of the people? They are even in more destruction and more punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forbid us in the Quran in multiple places from eating the wealth of the people without a right. And that is whether they are believers or whether they are disbelievers, it is haram to eat the wealth of the people without a right. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. And do not eat the wealth of each other amongst you, bil-batil, right? Without a just means, a just cause, without any justification, right? Among the justification, they give you the wealth, sadaqah, zakah, and so on. Or where there are cases of punishment and the likes from the government, right? Justified punishment, not that the government can punish you in any way, shape or form. Like for example, we mentioned in the fiqh class, someone in debt, they're not paying off their debt, right? Their wealth can be taken and sold in order to pay off those they owe, and so on. Right? But as for just taking the wealth of the people without any right, it's something that is a major sin in Islam. And there are many examples where people they fall into this without even realizing, especially when it comes to robbing those in authority, right? How many people they do something to affect the meter, right? So, and they're using the energy from Con Edison, or using, well, I don't know how practical is it here, but back home is something that is, right? You skip the meter with a few outlets, right? That all of those, the scholars, they added to eating the wealth of the people without any right. And these questions they are asked, is not the people, they ask them clearly, thinking that maybe there is some justification, but there is no justification whatsoever in taking anything that is not due to you. Right? Sometimes there may be a grant that is being shared out, right? Like we say, some organizations say, any person who household income is below $40,000, we're going to pay for one child, free education, right? Now everyone go to their boss and tell them, make sure, just give me, take out the rest so that it will be under 40,000, right? Make a pay stub for me. It look like 40, then you go and present it, right? So that you may gain the grant. All of that is eating wealth without any just cause, because you didn't qualify to get what they are given. So it is something that we should be careful of. الَّذِينَ إِذَا اكْتَالُوا عَلَى النَّاسِ يَسْتَوْفُونَ. When they have to receive from the people, right? They go and they purchase something, right? They want a kg of rice, kg of beans, right? They want a pound or a kg of meat. Wherever they are purchasing, they make sure that it is full, right? They get their full amount. Nothing is short. If the person say, okay, I'm going to give you a couple of ounces over the weight, right? Because it's difficult to make it exact. And so they're more than pleased, right? But they are not pleased with anything less. They're not pleased with anything less. وَإِذَا كَالُوهُمْ أَوْ وَزَنُوهُمْ يُخْسِرُونَ. But when they themselves now have to weigh for others, they reduce it. And they don't give in full. And Shaykh Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy upon him, he said along with this is any situation where individuals have the same mentality. When it comes to receiving their rights, they want it full. And when it comes to giving, they don't want to give. And he mentioned examples. He said, for example, the husband, right? Want their wife to be 100% with her right and her duty. But he don't want to be full in delivering his duty and his right and paying up and so on. Right? And he mentioned, for example, employees. Right? They clock in 10, 15, 20, half an hour, minutes after they're supposed to clock in, and they clock out before, right? And they want a full paycheck. All of that comes under this, right? When it comes to giving, you don't want to give. But when it comes to receiving, right, you want to make sure you have your measure in full. All of that fall under the warning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of destruction and punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ. Don't these individuals think and know that they are going to be resurrected? Right? And this is the reason why people, they involve in oppression and involve in sin and transgression. Why? Because they are not conscious of the day that they're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't these individuals think that they're going to be resurrected? لِيَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ, for a great day. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ النَّاسُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, the day when mankind will stand before the Lord of all creation. That day, if these individuals were conscious that they're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're going to be resurrected, and they're going to be questioned and reckoned for every single thing that they do. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whosoever does an ant weight of good will see it, and whosoever does an ant weight of evil, he will see it. Everything they're going to be questioned about, and they're going to see it. If they were conscious of this day, they will not be taking these things lightly and robbing the people and transgressing against the people, even in the smallest amount. Because the ant weight of oppression that they do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to present it in front of them. And as we will see in the next surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He speaks about the hisab, the reckoning. كَلَّا إِنَّ كِتَابَ الْفُجَّارِ لَفِي سِجِّينَ. Kalla, nay. Meaning that is not the case, that these individuals, they are going to rob these individuals, that they are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and conscious that they are going to be resurrected before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna kitab al-fujjari lafi sijjin. Indeed, the book of the fujjar. And the fujjar referring to those who, the disobedient ones, those who transgress against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sinful and those who transgress, as we will see the detail of their description to come, insha'Allah ta'ala. Kalla inna kitab al-fujjari lafi sijjin. As you say, kalla means nay, right? This translation meaning it is negating that which is before. That these individuals, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ, they are conscious, and do they not know that they're going to be resurrected before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, that's not the case. That they do not know that they're going to be resurrected, or that the case is not like they think, meaning that they are not going to be resurrected, rather they are going to be resurrected before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, the book of these individuals, these fujjar, those who are transgressing against the boundaries of Allah, the sinners, their book is written down fi sijjin, is in a sijjin, the book or the preservation of their deeds is in a recording named sijjin, and this recording is in the lowest part of the earth. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا sijjin. And what will make you know what is sijjin? What is sijjin? We said, Kitabun marqum. It is a book that has everything recorded in it. meaning the deeds of the disbelievers. Their scrolls, their books, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keeping it in a record known as what? As-Sijjin. Now the word Sijjin come from Sijin. Where is Sijin? Prison, right? So it refers to being enclosed and being captured. Now imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is storing their books in such a humiliated state. Now what will be their state, if that is the state of their recordings? وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سِجِّينَ كِتَابٌ مَرْقُومٌ وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. While woe or destruction and punishment on that day be to those who deny. Those who deny the resurrection and deny that they're going to be resurrected before Allah. They're going to be questioned for their deeds before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الَّذِينَ يُكَذِّبُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Those who deny and disbelieve in the day of resurrection. The day that they're going to be called to account. وَمَا يُكَذِّبُ بِهِ إِلَّا كُلُّ مُعْتَدٍ أَثِيمٍ. And no one disbelieves in this day and denies in this day and live their life as if they are not going to be resurrected, except everyone who is transgressing and everyone who is sinful. Now know these two descriptions. And these are the two descriptions of the fujjar. Who are the fujjar? The criminals or the wrongdoers? Kullu mu'tadin athim. Every individual that transgress and sinful. Transgress like the transgression that Allah mentioned in the beginning. They transgress by reducing their scale when they are weighing for the people. They transgress by lying. They transgress by taking the wealth of others. They transgress by killing others without any right. Robbing others, hurting others, and so on. Athim, sinful, disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we mentioned before, even though these verses are directly addressing the disbelievers, it's a warning for the believers. Because the believers, they may be punished if they fall into the sins of the disbelievers. And they may be punished for the very thing that the disbelievers are punished for. As we know from the Aqidah, the belief of Ahlul Quran, of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, is that many of the believers, they're going to be in the fire of hell until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove them with the intercession of the prophets and messengers and righteous people, and they're going to be removed with also the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُنَا قَالَ أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. These individuals, when the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being recited upon them, and they are reminded with the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is it they do? Do they accept it? Do they receive the admonishment? Do they take the admonishment? قَالَ أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. They say these are tales of the people of the past. They rejected it and they fabricate lie about the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kalla, nay. Again, negating something that preceded. What is it? Negating that this speech is asatirul awwaleen. It's tales of the ancient. Or tales of the people of the past. It is nothing like that. Rather, kalla bal rana ala qulubihim ma kanu yaksibun. Rather, their hearts have a covering over it because of that which they used to earn. That is the reality of their situation, is that they are sinning and transgressing, committing those two same acts, ithm and i'tida. Mu'tadin, because they are transgressing, they are committing i'tida, transgression, going against the rights of others. And athim, there are a lot of sins, ithm. Right? Committing a lot of sins and disobedience and disobeying the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Because of that which they are earning, they have a covering over their heart so that they cannot benefit from the Quran. It's not that the Quran is tales of ancient or fairy tales or fabricated lies, make that they are not benefiting from it. Rather, why is it they are not benefiting from it? is because their hearts is covered up and they cannot benefit from the reminder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ فَأَعْرَضَ عَنْهُ وَنَسِيَ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَهُ. Who is more oppressive than the one who, when he is reminded about the verses of his Lord, reminded about the Quran, reminded about the verses of his Lord. What was the verse again? وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ فَأَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا. Then he turns away from it. وَنَسِيَ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَهُ. And he forgets that which his own hands has put forth, the sins that he has committed. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقَرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we place on their hearts a covering, and their ears are sealed, so they cannot benefit from the reminders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. Indeed, on that day, meaning the day when they be resurrected before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the day when mankind is going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need something heavy. Right, the day is good. Jazakallah khair. The day when they will be resurrected before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. On that day they're going to be barred off and prevented on that day from their Lord. Meaning they're going to be prevented from what? From seeing their Lord. And in this verse, the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they use this verse to establish the ru'ya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be seen on the day of judgment. And that is going to be from the reward of the believers. Because if the disbelievers, they're going to be punished on that day by not being able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it means that the believers, they're going to be rewarded for seeing Allah, by seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't say that somebody is being punished with something if everyone is experiencing the same thing. Then there is not a punishment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned this in other places of the Quran. In Surah Qiyamah, وُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. On that day, وُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. Faces on that day is going to be bright and radiant. إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. To its Lord looking. Clear evidence in the Quran that we will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ ثُمَّ إِنَّهُمْ لَصَالُو الْجَحِيمِ. Then they are going to burn in the Jahim, in the fire of hell. ثُمَّ يُقَالُ هَذَا الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تُكَذِّبُونَ. And it will be said to them that this is what you used to disbelieve in. كَلَّا إِنَّ كِتَابَ الْأَبْرَارِ لَفِي عِلِّيِّينَ. Then after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned the state of the fujjar. And take into context that this surah came in the context, and these verses came in the context of what? Sins and transgression. Sins, disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and transgressing against the rights of the people and robbing the people. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the state of the sinful and the transgress and those who transgress, He mentioned the state of the opposite. Those who are obedient and those who give the people their rights. كَلَّا إِنَّ كِتَابَ الْأَبْرَارِ لَفِي عِلِّيِّينَ. Nay, indeed, the book of the Abrar is in Illiyin, is in the highest place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who are the Abrar? If the Fujjar were those who sin and those who transgress, then the Abrar are those who are obedient to Allah and those who fulfill the rights of the people. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about generally everyone who fulfill the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stay away from the oppression, stay away from oppressing the people. And including in them specifically are those who pay their, they give their full measure when they are giving the people their measure. And note in the Quran there is abrar and there is muqarrabin and ashabul yamin. Now when the abrar or the muqarrabin is mentioned in general, right? Then both is the same thing. Abrar and muqarrabin is two description for the people that are going to be closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the case here. As we will see that the abrar here are the muqarrabin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Inna kitab al-abrar lafi illiyin. The recording of the abrar, of the righteous, is in the illiyin, is in high place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as the nature of this tafsir, right, is very summarized. Each one of these, if you go back, there is detailed discussion on the sijjin and the illiyin. And you can go back also to the hadith of al-Bara ibn Azib, where he described the stage or the journey of the soul after death. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا عِلِّيُّونَ. What will make you know what is عِلِّيُّون? Meaning this place where the scrolls of the righteous will be recorded and preserved. كِتَابٌ مَرْقُومٌ. It is a book that is being written, and everything is scribed inside of this book. All of the deeds of the abrar, it is being written down in this book. يَشْهَدُهُ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Those who are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are witnessing and are present with this book. Now what is meant by that? يَشْهَدُهُ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Right, from amongst the meaning is that who are those that are close with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this moment? They are the angels, right? The angels. They are the ones who are close with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this moment. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this book is being witnessed by the angels. And some of the scholars, they mentioned from the meaning of this is that the angels, they will announce the good deeds of the believers among themselves in the gathering of the angels in the heavens. Right? The individuals, they will be known by the angels. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to describe the abode of the abrar. After Allah mentioned the state of the book of the fujjar before, the criminals and the disobedient ones, He mentioned their state of themselves. He mentioned the state of their book and mentioned the state of these disbelievers. إِنَّهُمْ لَصَالُ الْجَحِيمِ. Right? They are going to be born in the fire of hell. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the state of these abrar. What will be the state of these abrar? إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ. Indeed, the abrar, the righteous, they are going to be in bliss. They are going to be in the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ. They will be upon pulpits, upon arika, upon high raised chair and couches. ينظرون, looking at the delights that are present in the Jannah. تعرف في وجوههم نظرة النعيم. On their face you will see clearly the delight that they are in. Now imagine the delight of Jannah, you can see it in the face of these individuals. Then what about the delight? You know, in order for us, when they are receiving something good and it really affects them, you can see it upon their face. But if that thing is not really that good and it's something neutral or okay, it might not necessarily show on their face. Rather, they may receive something good, but if their state of mind is not good, it's not going to show on their face. So it shows what? Two things. It shows that the abrar, the righteous, they are going to be physically in delight and in bliss. And internally, their state, their emotion, everything is going to be in delight and in bliss that is clearly shown or seen on their face. يُسْقَوْنَ مِنْ رَحِيقٍ مَخْتُومٍ. They are going to be given to drink from a rahiqin makhtum, meaning from the wines of Jannah, that doesn't cause one to get drunk, any headache, any sickness. It doesn't cause any foul speech to come from it, right? Any foolish behavior to come from it. Khitamuhu misk, and this drink is going to be sealed with misk, right? The cover of this drink is either going to be from misk, or, the back, and even now, a lot of those beverage bottle, it's covered with a piece of wood, right? We have those modern cover, right? Plastic cover, metal cover, right? Now, back in the days, sometimes they have, dough. They take dough, right? And make it to plug the cover. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the meaning of this is that their beverage, the cover of their beverage, if you want to say, is made from like dough of misk, right? The material that is going to cover their beverage is going to be misk. So when they open their beverage, the first thing is pleasant smell, right? Compared to a lot of the alcoholic beverages here, right? It's literally has a foul smell, right? If it's spilled, even worse. Left overnight, right? Those who grow up in areas where there are bars and liquor store all over the place, right? You know what the scent can be like. There is one meaning. And the other meaning is khitamuhu misk, is that the end of it is misk. And that is from both meaning is correct. And that is from we see this multiple place in the Quran. And if we study as we will see another example in the next surah, the dama'ir, the pronouns of the Quran, and the choice of words, right? It gives you a complex meaning. So if the word khitamuhu misk, right? Khitam from khatam. Khatam can mean seal. Or it can come from khatam, like khatam al-nabiyyin, that means seal. Right? A seal. There's something that something end with. Or see another meaning, that is, when the word seal might not be khatam al-nabiyyin, we refer to the last prophet, where the final messenger, right? The last thing, the khatima, right? When you say the khatima, husnul khatima, I wish for you husnul khatima, a good ending, right? The end affair, the last moment is there is one meaning of khatima or khatam. Another meaning of khatam is seal, where you seal the beginning of something, right? Where you seal the cover of something, right? The cork of something, also from the same word. So this same word in this context, right, it indicates what? That the beginning of this drink is a good scent, and the end of this drink is a good scent, with one single verse. Khitamuhu misk, right? Either the seal of its cover is a good scent. When you open it or when you pop it, it's a good scent. And when you finish, the last of this drink is a good scent of misk. And of course, there is just the name. But the reality of the scent of misk of the Jannah, no one knows. No human being knows. None of the creation of Allah knows the reality of that scent until they enter into the Jannah and experience the Jannah. ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون. And in that, let those who want to compete. Right? Those who want to compete, you want to rival, you want to outpass each other, this is what you need to compete in. And this is amazing. Take this verse in the context of the surah. What the surah came in the context of what? The people competing in the dunya and trying to rob each other with the dunya. Right? Competing, even going beyond what is permissible in competing and robbing in order to gain more. Alhaakumut takathur. Right? Trying to get more than each other, distracted you from reality, distracted you from worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, what? If you want to compete, those who want to compete for this. This is what you have to compete for. This is the ultimate opportunity. And the ultimate goal and the ultimate success is to be in Jannah. On that day, it wouldn't matter who gain what of this dunya. Who didn't have house, who graduate, who didn't graduate, who fail an exam in this world. None of those things will matter on the day of judgment if our obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not intact. And when the scholars make the likes of these statements, is not to say that we should not pay attention to these things. But it's talking where is the priority and what matters. If you have to compromise something, it's either you complete your college and get your degree, or you're gonna fall into some major sin. You know for sure you can't handle it. Too many temptation. It's one out of the two. Are you gonna compromise your deen, or are you gonna compromise your college? There is where the test is gonna come. When you have to choose. Right? It's easy to go and follow the deen and be upon steadfastness when everything is going perfect. Right? But when the test is there, that is where you have to choose. What is it you want? وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Nowhere in the Quran and in the Sunnah you find any motivation to compete with each other with regards to this deen, unless it's a direct aid for the hereafter and direct aid for the deen and the Muslims. وَمِزَاجُهُ مِن تَسْنِيم. And this drink that they're going to be drinking, the wine of Jannah, is going to be mixed with tasneem. Now what is tasneem? عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. It is going to be a spring that the muqarrabun will be drinking from. Now, pause on this. What time is the Sefer? We have. What time? 47? 57? Okay. Now, here, عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Now we have two beverages here mentioned. You have the يُسْقَوْنَ مِنْ رَحِيقٍ مَخْتُومٍ. The rahiq makhtum. Right? That they're going to be drinking from and they're going to be fed from. And then Allah mentioned that this rahiq makhtum is going to be mixed with tasneem. Right? Another spring in Jannah. And this spring is a spring that the muqarrabun are drinking from. So is the muqarrabun other than the abrar? Is it, you have two groups of people. One, you have the abrar. They're going to be given the rahiq makhtum to the rahiq that they're going to be drinking from. Right? And then that rahiq is going to be mixed with tasneem. Right? And then as for the muqarrabun, they are going to be drinking from the tasneem directly, without any mix. Understand? Right? Because Allah mentioned about the tasneem that it is a spring that the muqarrabun will be drinking from. Right? There is one understanding. So it's two, you have the reward of the abrar mentioned, and then the muqarrabun are those who are even more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or that both of them, in this context, is the same group of individual. The muqarrabun and the abrar, they are the same group of individual. They are all the righteous, and they are described with two descriptions. One description, abrar, right, righteousness and piety, and muqarrabun. Why is it they are called muqarrabun? Because of their closeness, their qurba to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now those are two understanding or two interpretation of the verses. Now, here, whatever the case is, what is the motivation? The motivation is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of your ability, so you can have the best of the bliss and the enjoyment of Jannah. So you can enjoy from the rahiq, and you can enjoy from the tasneem. And these are from the drinks of Jannah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in Surah al-Insan two other beverages. What are the two beverages? Zanjabil, that is translated as ginger, but obviously the reality of it is different. and the other one before Zanjabil. Kafur. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا كَانُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَضْحَكُونَ. Now after imagine the disbelievers and the criminals and those who are transgressing, they are seeing all of these bliss that the believer is going to be in. And wondering why is it that they can't be with the believers in these bliss and in these enjoyment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning here the state of these disbelievers when the guidance came to them. The two states. He mentioned one state, they rejected the guidance and they claimed that the Quran is tales of the ancient or fairy tales from the people of the past. And also, how is it they used to treat the believers? They never used to treat the believers with respect. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا كَانُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَضْحَكُونَ. Verily those who transgressed and the disobedient and the disbelievers, they used to laugh at the believers. And when they pass by them, يَتَغَامَزُونَ, they will make gestures of mockery. وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمُ انْقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. And when they return to their family, they return in a rejoiceful way, happy about that which they used to do. And this shows the seriousness of belittling the righteous people because of their deen. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they fall into this, belittling the scholars because of their deen, belittling someone because their beard, or belittling a sister because she wants to wear their hijab, making mockery of those who want to be religious. And it's something that is serious. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Tawbah, it is the reason why your deeds can be nullified. قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ لَا تَعْتَذِرُوا قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. Say, is it in Allah and His Messenger and His verses that you are making fun of and mockery of? لَا تَعْتَذِرُوا. Make no excuse, for you have indeed became disbelievers after you were believers. فَقَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. You have indeed disbelieved after your iman, after your belief. After claiming to be believers, you fall into this sin, it nullifies all of your deeds. وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمُ انْقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. And this is a state that we should be warned of. And that is, we always rejoicing and being in a state of happiness when we are in a state of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we see in the next surah, this will be the state of those who will receive their books in their left hand. Among their family, they are rejoiceful and have no fear of the day of judgment, no fear of the resurrection, no fear of their questioning before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah mentioned in other places that the state of the believers were. In Surah At-Tur, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about the believers that they will say, إِنَّا كُنَّا مِن قَبْلُ فِي أَهْلِنَا مُشْفِقِينَ. That we used to be in this dunya amongst our family fearful. The disbelievers is their case. When they are amongst their family in a state of this, they are happy and rejoiceful. Happy and rejoiceful for what? Over their disbelief and over their sins and transgression. They are sinning, they are disobeying Allah, and yet they are happy and they are rejoiceful for their state. It does not refer to generally being happy and rejoiceful. As we know, we should be happy and rejoiceful over the favors and the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُونَ. And not only did they make mockery, but they say what? These believers, they are astray. وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ حَافِظِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says He haven't sent them upon the believers as حافظين. He didn't send these disbelievers to overlook the actions of the believers. حافظين meaning preservers, to overlook them, to know their deeds, to see what they're doing, right or bad, and make judgment of them. That is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't send them as preservers over the believers. فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ تعرف على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. So this day, meaning the day of judgment, when they're going to be resurrected and they're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the believers, they're going to be laughing at the disbelievers. على الأرائك ينظرون, upon their pulpits, upon their cushions, upon their thrones, they're going to be looking and they're going to be laughing back at the believers. And this verse and other verses that we mentioned before, it shows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to remove mercy from the hearts of the angels and the believers towards the disbelievers on the day of judgment. No one will be feeling sorry for the disbelievers. In this world, yes. But on the day of judgment, no one will be feeling sorry. Because that is a means to be sad. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not make the believers sad and have grief on the day of judgment and when they're going to be in Jannah. And we see this in the story that we came across in Surah Safat, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open a window for the people of Jannah to see the people of the fire of hell. The person, إِنَّهُ كَانَ لِي قَرِينٌ. Excuse me, where he said, I had a partner, a friend in this world that almost caused me to go astray. And then he said, that shouldn't you not look and see where he is in. And they saw him in the pit of the fire of hell, burning. Right? They will see the believers being punished if they want to. Right? Allah will open up a window for them. The believers will be in Jannah. And when they will be gathering and talking about this dunya, and they may recall someone who caused them to go, or almost caused them to go astray. Right? And they will request that a window be opened. They will see live what is happening to some of their friends in Jannah, and it will not cause them any grief and any sadness when they are in Jannah. Allah will remove that from the hearts of the angels and the believers. The angels who will be punishing them in the fire of hell. And that is a punishment for the disbelievers in the hereafter. هَلْ ثُوِّبَ الْكُفَّارُ مَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. Aren't the disbelievers being recompensed justly for that which they were doing? And then in the next surah, Surah al-Inshiqaq. Also, this surah is from those surah al-Makkiyah. And we mentioned that the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whosoever wants to see the day of judgment as if he is seeing it with his eyes, let him read إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْفَطَرَتْ and إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْشَقَّتْ. These three surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He began this surah in the same way He began the last two that came in the hadith. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْفَطَرَتْ. Meaning, when the skies will be broken apart, will cleft asunder, will fall apart. Now this, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when this thing is going to happen, it should cause us to want to know the one who is listening, when this happens, what is going to happen. If someone is going to say, when the president come to New York and full stop, right? You're waiting for something. What is going to happen when he comes to New York? إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْشَقَّتْ. When the heavens, the skies is going to split and fall apart. وَآذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ. And it will listen to the commandments of his Lord. وَآذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا, meaning adhina, meaning it will listen. Right? The same word that you have udhun, ears. Right? وَآذِنَ لِرَبِّهَا. It will listen to the commandments of his Lord. وَحُقَّتْ. And rightful is it to listen and to follow the commandments of his Lord. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who's going to command the heavens to open up and to split and to fall apart. وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ. And when the earth is going to be spread out. Now this spread out is not the same spread out that Allah described the earth in this dunya. As Allah mentioned that the earth in this dunya is spread out. But what is meant by the spread out here? Meaning it is spread out, created in a way comfortable for living, even though it is round or spherical. There's a word, right? It's still considered to be spread out. But what is meant by this spread out is the spreading out on the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will flatten the earth. and spread it out so that everyone will stand and no one will be hiding from the other. Imagine if you're standing in something that is wrong, right? It's possible that those who are way at the back, they're going to create they're going to be shadowed by those who are in front of them. But the heart will be spread out and all of mankind will be standing in one row. As for the angels, as Allah described, they will be standing saffan saffa, in rows right behind each other. But as for mankind, everyone will be in one row. It's not that mankind will be standing before Allah. The surah before, يَوْمَ يَقُومُ النَّاسِ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, the day when mankind will stand before the Lord of the world. How is it they're going to be standing? In lines, one behind each other, like if you imagine like in the salah? No, everyone in one row. So no one will feel any form of security or any form of covering from the rows that are in front of them. Everyone will be standing in one row. And in order for that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will flatten the entire earth and remove everything from it. No mountains, no hills, no rivers, nothing will be on the earth when it's time for the judgment. يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ, the day when the earth will be changed into another earth. وَأَزِنَتْ وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ, and the earth is going to throw out everything that is in it and it will empty out. When that time reach for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to flatten the earth, everything that is in the earth will be thrown out. All of the treasures, all of the water store, the petrol, the gold, the diamond, the bodies, everything will be thrown out from the earth. Nothing will remain in the earth. وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ, and the earth will listen to the commandment of its Lord, and rightful is it, an obligation upon it to listen to the commandment of its Lord. يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدَحًا فَمُلَاقِي. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, O mankind, إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدَحًا, you are working tirelessly and you are striving towards, kadhan is great striving, إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ, until you reach your Lord. فَمُلَاقِي, and then you're going to meet Him. Now, فَمُلَاقِي, that ha, the end there, as we know, it can be translated into English as him or it. So it's either you are striving and working tirelessly in this earth towards your Lord, meaning every day you are working, every day you are striving and tiring yourself, you are getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every day is one day less that you have in this earth, and one day closer towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمُلَاقِي, and then you're going to meet Him. So you're working and working and working, and you're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of all of those striving and all of those effort that you are making in this dunya. Whether it's striving and effort behind good or behind evil and bad, or you are mixing your deed. فَمُلَاقِي, then you will meet your Lord. That's if it is, the ha means Him. Or it can be the ha means it, meaning you are striving and you are working and making effort until you're going to until you reach your Lord. فَمُلَاقِي, and then you're going to meet. فَمُلَاقِي, you're going to meet it, meaning those striving and those work. Meaning when you are resurrected before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to reach your book, you're going to reach your deeds, you're going to see everything that you have been struggling and striving and tiring yourself behind. And both of these meanings are correct. And both of these meanings are supported by the context of the surah. The first meaning is supported by the fact that Allah is mentioned right before. Right? Oh mankind, you are tiring yourself and you are working towards your Lord. فَمُلَاقِي, and then you're going to meet Him. And then the next verse it says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ, as for the one who is giving his book in his right hand. That's support the meaning that what he's going to meet is what? His deeds. So you are tiring yourself and you are working every day, getting closer towards your Lord, and then you're going to meet it. You're going to meet your deeds. And when you meet your deeds, as for the one who is giving his book, meaning the book of his deeds in his right hand, فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. He will be giving an easy recompense. And what is meant by this easy recompense, as the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned al-arud, meaning your deeds is going to be presented to Allah. And He may remind you of some of the bad things that you did. But you're not going to be punished for it, and you're not going to be interrogated. As the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, Man nuqish al-hisab udhib. The one who will be interrogated for his reckoning, he is going to be punished. Everyone who is going to be reckoned, in other words, is going to be punished. And Aisha radiallahu anha, she asks, didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. That as for the one who's been given his book in his right hand, he's going to have an easy reckoning. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said what is meant by that reckoning is just your deeds being presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But whosoever is going to be interrogated for his deeds and questioned about his deeds, that individual is going to be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that reckoning is going to be a punishment for him. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. Now note in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the state of mankind as constantly working and working and working and striving. And that is how the believers should be. That every day is striving and working, but with good deeds, towards meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and towards receiving our book of deeds in our right hand. And we only rest and we only relax in order to revive ourselves. Not just for the dunya's sake. That is how the believer should be. Even those things that are mubah, right? The things that are permissible, right? That is recommended, you take from it as much as it's needed. As the companions, some of them say that they will relax, they will enjoy some permissible amusement in order to revive themselves. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فَإِذَا فَرَقْتَ فَانْصَبْ. What is the meaning of that? فَإِذَا فَرَقْتَ. When you finish, فَانْصَبْ. Then get up again and work. When you finish with one task, start another task. You finish with one task, start another task. And if you need to relax, you relax as needed. If you have a set time of the year when you're going to relax, it's not going to serve you much purpose. Why? Because you may be relaxing in a time when you're energetic to do good. And then, when you're burnt out, there's no vacation day for you to relax. But if you're thinking according to these verses, right, you take it as you need it. And like that, you're able to go and do more. And as we know of from Imam Ahmad, he was asked when we will rest. He said when the first feet reach into Jannah. And it was said about Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Baz that he never took off any vacation day. And everyone, they vary. Some people need a vacation every day. Some people every week. Some people every month. Right? Those who need, if you really need it. فَسَوْفَ يُحَاسَبُ حِسَابًا يَسِيرًا. He will have an easy reckoning. وَيَنْقَلِبُ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. And then he will return to his family rejoicing, meaning in the Jannah. Allah will return him to his family, either his family from the creation of Jannah, the Hurul Ain, and his family from this dunya. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned about the believers, وَمَنْ صَلُحَ مِنْ آبَائِهِمْ وَأَزْوَاجِهِمْ وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ. That Allah is going to enter them into the Jannah, and those who are righteous among their fathers and their progeny, their children and their spouse. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. Those who believe and their children follow them upon Iman, upon belief, and Allah is going to call all of them to be united in the Jannah, in the same level of Jannah. وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ وَرَاءَ ظَهْرِهِ. As for the one who will receive his book behind his back, فَسَوْفَ يَدْعُو ثُبُورًا. He will call ثُبُورًا. He will call upon himself with destruction, wishing that he was destroyed and finished off with. وَيَصْلَى سَعِيرًا. But he's going to be born in the fire of hell. إِنَّهُ كَانَ فِي أَهْلِهِ مَسْرُورًا. He used to be rejoiceful among his family in this dunya. Right? Same description of the people in Surah Mutaffifin. right? In his family, being among his family, sinning, transgressing, doing everything that is wrong, not fearing any reckoning, not fearing standing before Allah, always rejoicing in a state of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّهُ ظَنَّ أَلَّا يَحُورُ. He thinks that he will not return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بَلَى إِنَّ رَبَّهُ كَانَ بِهِ بَصِيرًا. Indeed, his Lord was ever watchful over him, seeing everything that he did. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالشَّفَقِ. So I swear by ash-shafaq. Ash-shafaq referring to the, what do you call it? The light after sunset. What do you call it? Twilight. So I swear by the twilight. And by the night, وَمَا وَسَقَ, and everything that it gathers. وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا اتَّسَقَ, and by the moon when it is complete and it is full. لَتَرْكَبُنَّ طَبَقًا عَنْ طَبَقٍ. You are going to pass through stage by stage. Meaning you're going to go through different phase and different stage in life. Now give us 5 minutes inshallah, we're going to finish off. Because there's an interesting information or points that we can't just fly past right here. You might not find it in books of tafsir unless you follow classes and so. Now note, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالشَّفَقِ. I swear by the twilight and the night and everything that it gathers. Now what the night gathers? Right? There's two things that the night gathers. Either it refers to everything that the night covers up. Right? Or, as we know that during the night, all of creation, they head back towards their home and head back towards their dwelling place. So for example, the family in the day they scattered. This one gone to school, this one gone to the workplace, this one gone exercising. When the night reach, everyone is gathered back. Right? For rest. That is one meaning. And the creation, the cows, the cattle, everything spread out during the day. When the night, everyone gathered back. That is one meaning. The night and what it gathers. So it refers to the creation gathering, or it refers to everything that the night covers. وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا اتَّسَقَ, and by the moon when it tasaq, mean it is complete. Right? The full moon. The next, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swear by these three things, swearing that what? That you are going to go through different phase of life. Different phase of life from the very beginning of your creation. From a nutfa, from being a drop of fluid to being a clot of blood, then you become in a fetus and a bone, and then you become a child, and then you become a teenager, and then you have different challenges in life, right? Wanting wealth, wanting fame, wanting different things, becoming an adult, growing old, and going back towards the state that you begin. You start off weak, you end up back weak. Right? You're going to pass through different stage. Sometimes you're going to be in happiness. Sometimes you're going to be in sadness. Sometimes you're going to be in wealth. Sometimes you're going to be in poverty. Various stages you're going to be passing through in life. And this here is a reflection over the first verse. Ya ayyuhan nas innaka kadihun ila rabbik. All of this is from the toil and the struggle that you're going through as you are on that journey towards your Lord. Now look at the link, an amazing link, or from amongst the link. And obviously there are going to be multiple links between what Allah swear by and what He swear upon. He swear by the twilight, which is the first stage of the night. And then He swear by the night when it covers everything. And that the nights cover everything when it becomes fully dark. There's another stage of the light. And He swear by the moon. And as we know that the moon, throughout the night, it goes through various stages. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He swear by these things that goes through different stages and don't remain in one state, upon our state going through various stages, and we are not remaining upon one state. فَمَا لَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. So what is with the matter with them that they do not believe? وَإِذَا قُرِئَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقُرْآنِ لَا يَسْجُرُونَ. And when the Quran is being recited to them, they do not worship Allah. They do not prostrate and submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بَلِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُكَذِّبُونَ. Rather those who disbelieve, يُكَذِّبُونَ. They disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They deny the truthfulness of this Quran. Wallahu a'lamu bima yu'un, and Allah knows best of that which they are hiding and their deeds and the secrets of their heart. فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, so give them the glad tidings of a painful punishment. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونٍ, except for those who believe and do righteous deeds. They will have a reward that is not going to cut off. And everywhere in the Quran where Allah promises the believers and those who righteous deeds, is referring to those who complete their iman and those who perfect their deeds in general. Those who perfect their deeds in general. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who complete their iman and those who are among those who do righteous deeds and perfect their deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.